Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
We have made it to the weekend. Larry Smith here. Glad you're with us here. Tony Cordero, our producer. Josh Ewing is our editor. We are Sports IQ. Another good show. You know, we did a lot of college football yesterday. Talked to insiders from both schools, Indiana and Miami. A little college basketball today. Looking forward to the weekend here. In fact, it's a Big Ten day, just the way it works out. We've got Ben Doody from the Omaha World-Herald talking about the undefeated Nebraska Cornhuskers. What's it like out there right now in Lincoln? With basketball, of all things, off to their best start in program history. We'll talk about that. Also, our friend Rob Blackman, play-by-play man for the Purdue Boilermakers. They are headed out west to take on USC on Saturday, UCLA on Tuesday before the showdown against Illinois next week. They're in West Lafayette. We'll talk with Rob as well about this Purdue team that, you know, we were talking here really just during the week that you talk about in terms of teams that, we've asked before, hey, who's the strongest college basketball team right now? And of course, some think it's Arizona. Some think, Michigan, even though they lost last week at home against Wisconsin. UConn's always around. Iowa State, they were undefeated before they just lost, right? But Purdue's been right there. The only loss was to Iowa State. But all of a sudden, like, that's reason not to talk about them. Like, they were preseason number one. We don't care anymore. So anyway, we'll talk to Rob about that and get his thoughts in terms of on where Purdue is right now. It's hard to think that a preseason number one that stayed in the top 10 throughout the first, 2 months of the season is ignored, but it's kind of what's happening right now at Purdue. So we'll get his thoughts on that. So great show coming up. We'll also talk a little NFL Divisional Playoffs in just a bit here. Producer Tony will give us his thoughts. He puts his mic on. Let's get to a couple of headlines for today. Kyle Tucker getting the richest contract in Major League Baseball history from, you guessed it, yes, the Empire, the Dodgers. If you were mad about all the money the Yankees spent here over the past couple of decades, you have to be, is the word I used it, I used the word apoplectic about what the Dodgers are doing. Two-time defending champs, building this year's vision of the Death Star with the addition of Tucker as their payroll tax just rolls even higher. Kyle Tucker headed now to the Dodgers as the rich get richer, as it will. Interesting story here. 5 players who played 4 seasons in 4 years and were looking for a 5th season, is, of course, going to college, had their petition denied by U.S. District Judge William L. Campbell, who wrote that the players did not make the case that they likely would succeed on their claim that the NCAA violates U.S. antitrust laws with its red shirt rule that restricts athletes to 4 seasons over 5 years. So there you go. Listen, we're going to see this happen time and time again. Players trying to keep in, especially now with NIL. Look, if you're a really good college player, but you're not really a pro prospect, why wouldn't you try to stay in? Why wouldn't you try to stay in and make another $200,000? Next year, so going into the real world and making $50,000 or whatever the case is. So I understand that. Also, college football, Sooners getting some good news. Both John Mateer, their quarterback, Kip Lewis as well, the team's best linebacker and leading tackler, did not declare for the NFL draft. So both will return to Oklahoma for the 2026 season. The Sooners breaking through, getting their first bid to the newfangled college football playoff before losing their opener at home against Alabama. But good news there. They were 2 key players in Oklahoma's big season this year. Women's college hoops, number 2, South Carolina over number 4, Texas, 68-65. Great top 5 matchup there in the SEC. Number 9, Louisville getting a road win over 23rd ranked Notre Dame, 79-66. It was number 8, Michigan over number 25, Illinois, 85-69. 15th ranked Michigan State, now 17-1. They beat number 24, Nebraska, 73-71. And number 1, UConn in women's hoops. Looks like they might be slipping just a bit. I don't know. Back to the drawing board. They failed to get 100 Thursday night. Only beat Villanova 99-50. Fire Gino. Not really. Huskies just keep rolling right along. Yeah, one of the great stories in college basketball this year has been the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Not only best start in program history, but they go into the weekend as one of only 3 unbeaten teams in college basketball. The other surprise would be Vanderbilt. We talked with Henry a few days ago about the Commodores, and today talking more about the Cornhuskers is Ben Doody. He's the executive editor of the Omaha World-Herald. Talking to him for the first time. Ben, welcome to Sports IQ and Happy New Year.
Hey, Larry, Happy New Year to you. I would love that you say Happy New Year on the 15th. That's pushing it a little bit, but I'm a proponent of you can say Happy New Year as late as you want to, as long as it's your first conversation with that person this year. So you're good.
We're already simpatico, my friend. Exactly. So, and I want to spread out that good cheer. Vandy, by the way, was one of the last unbeatens before they lost at Texas the other night. So now there's just two going into the weekend. Tell us about this Nebraska team. What has been so special about this Cornhuskers unit?
First of all, it's been just an amazing story and a super fun story, especially Larry coming off this football season, which I think many Husker fans were at least mildly disappointed by, or maybe extremely disappointed by. So I just moved to Nebraska from the East Coast. I grew up in Massachusetts and Connecticut, so I've gotten used to UConn and gotten used to college basketball being front and center, and also a lot of winning. It's different here. Not only not a lot of winning historically for the Cornhuskers, as you know, they have never won an NCAA tournament game. And so there's this storyline about getting the monkey off their back in terms of one NCAA win. As you can see, this is a team that should be able to have multiple NCAA wins. So that obviously is one storyline. The other thing, Larry, is the fan base here is so rabid. They are so dedicated to this university, so dedicated to the Huskers. And it's a good basketball school with a good basketball fan base. So they're fans who have followed this team for decades. They keep showing up and watching some of these losing teams. And so the joy that you see from Husker fans following this season is kind of amazing. It's I don't know how many parallels there are elsewhere in the country to how the fan base is receiving this team.
Was that surprising to you, considering coming from the New England area and UConn and that fan base, I'm sure regionally, and just what they've done over the past quarter century, to come out to Nebraska and see the same kind of fervor for a team that hasn't had anywhere close to that kind of success?
It's not surprising to me, Larry, because I know what the university and what the Huskers mean to this fan base. I believe, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to come out here and take this job. I think Omaha / Nebraska, you could put Lincoln in there as kind of the same market in some ways. I think it's the best college sports market in America. I really believe that. I think it's the best college sports market in America in terms of how the State U athletic program drives the bus in terms of what's going on in the community, what's going on in the entire state of Nebraska. It is just a cultural focal point that, frankly, is it's not really like that in New England, despite how good some of the teams are, especially UConn, just because in New England and greater New York and in Boston, there's just a lot of other things going on, including in the sports calendar. In Connecticut, people are still kind of more likely to talk to you about the Red Sox or Yankees or the Patriots than about the Huskies. And here, Huskers, and Creighton, we're in an interesting spot in Omaha because we've got Creighton right here in Omaha. We've got the Huskers down the road in Lincoln. The World-Herald covers both teams. Please check out our coverage. But the passion for all things Husker athletics is there. The missing ingredient has been winning. And so you put that winning ingredient in here, and it's been a joyride for people. So no, it's not surprising to me, but it has been really fun to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing, by the way, we do know that there's a great passion for sports there. One of our stations, one of our affiliates is KLIN. They're in Lincoln that we're on every Saturday. And so we do know that much. And I think one thing maybe people may not realize outside of Nebraska is that Coach Fred Hoiberg has this team primed for a third straight 20-win season. That's never happened before in program history. So like you said, the winning isn't just now. They've been winning here the past few years.
They've been winning a bit. I would ratchet down a little bit of the credit, especially in an era where, look, I think some people had some fun with the crown last year. As you know, the reason that Nebraska has the longest winning, or has had for the whole season, the longest winning streak in the country is because they won these games in the crown. Look, the deal in college basketball these days, Larry, with these additional postseason tournaments, there are multiple different ways you can get to 20 wins. My sense is the Husker fans kind of enjoyed the crown, but that's not what they were really going for. Mm-hmm. This year is just a completely different animal. So I think, Larry, one of the things that Husker fans are working their way through is that we're now at the point in the season where we meaning just the Husker follower base, has already seen this team go beyond where they've been. right? They've had only a limited number of double-digit win seasons.
Right.
In some of these cases where you actually had single-digit win seasons. Okay, so this team has now turned the corner where it could lose every game for the rest of the season, and it's still actually better than some other teams that Nebraska has had. But you're turning the corner now, Larry, into a world where I still think the Husker fan would be happy winning one NCAA tournament game. I still think you get to savor this regular season, even if you get bounced in the round of 32. But at the same time, this should be a second weekend or better NCAA tournament team. Okay. So that's kind of where we're in writing some of the stuff that we're writing on our site, omaha.com, and in our other World-Herald platforms. We're trying to capture this, which is you can have this joyride of a season, and it's not like it's a Final Four or bust kind of thing. But is this team capable of winning a national championship? Yes. I mean, without a doubt, they're capable of winning a national championship. They can't put together this resume against this level of competition and then say, oh, no, they're not even in the conversation as being one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah, I just had someone the other day who's a Syracuse grad and covers Kentucky basketball and was questioning the bona fides of Nebraska. I'm like, well, they beat a ranked Illinois team in Champaign, and they beat a ranked Michigan State team in Nebraska. I mean, what have you done at UK? I mean, their resume is much better. That's why they're in the top 10 right now. There's no question. And I think to what you made up a really good point, and I really agree with this, that when you think about it, the fact they don't have this great long history of NCAA tournament success, I think that makes this run even more exciting because you don't have the expectation. Like you said, you can go out and win one game and it's great, but this is a team that should win 3 or 4 games. It's a veteran team. Sandifort's been through it at Iowa, Mast at Bradley, other guys transferring in. It's not like this is a young team, it's a very veteran team, and they play very well on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, their predictive metrics would be better if you just focused on their Big Ten slate. One of the reasons that I think last I looked, they were number 15 in KenPom. So their KenPom number is below where their AP poll number is, for example. One of the reasons for that, Larry, is that they're not in their non-conference schedule. They didn't play the toughest schedule. They played some good teams. They beat Oklahoma and Kansas State on neutral sites, beat New Mexico on a neutral site. So it's not like they didn't play anybody, but they're playing moderately good teams, and they're beating them by single-digit margins in some case, as opposed to playing a top 10, 15 team and blowing them out. But if you look at this team, really starting with there are different starting points, but I would start it with the Wisconsin game, which is their Big Ten opener. Wisconsin, which won at Michigan last weekend, came to Lincoln in late December and got their doors blown off by 30. Okay, so if you look at their Big Ten performance, they've won close games, they've won blowouts, they've won at home, they've won on the road. And the Big Ten, last I looked, the Big Ten's projected to get 10 or 11 teams in the NCAA tournament. So if you focused on their resume from late December on, then their predictive metrics actually jump to a point where almost no matter how you look at them analytically, they're one of the, pick your number, but I mean, they're one of the top 10 teams in the country, I think, by almost any way that you would slice and dice that.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, it's a very deep league. They're at Northwestern this weekend. Northwestern yet to get a win in the Big Ten, but look, we know that they're a much better team than that. They took Illinois to the wire before coming up short back on Wednesday. Coming up 1st of February, if anyone still is a non-believer about this Nebraska team, once we turn the calendar, 3 ranked teams in 4 nights, at currently number 4 Michigan, back home against number 13 Illinois, and then at home against number 5 Purdue. So if anybody doesn't believe, there's a stretch right there that they can. It's a real strong litmus test as they get ready for March and the postseason.
Yeah, I'm eager to see how it goes. Look, they will likely. I don't think they're going to go undefeated.
No.
Although the more it goes along, Larry, you've got to kind of be open-minded about even some really crazy things. I talked with Joe Lunardi. I do a weekly media column. We talked with Joe for the column we wrote last week, and Joe gave a warning to the Husker fan, hey, you're going to lose a handful of games. The question is it a relatively large handful, say 4 or 5 games, or is it like a really small handful? And I think, Larry, you're in the point in the calendar where there's at least a possibility that handful of losses is quite small, that it's quite small. Now, look, they will be, I think, an underdog at Michigan. They play there January 27th. They play Iowa twice. They could lose one or both games to Iowa. That's at least possible. They certainly could lose to Purdue. And so it's not like you're penciling in win, 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 win. But if you look at the games and you're like, I'm very confident they're losing this game, Larry, there are not very many of those games at all. No. So I'm going to be fascinated. Look, the Husker fan's going to need to maybe withstand some punches here. I think the Husker fan and the national fan should be prepared for this team to lose a handful of games. And I don't think people here are going to be jumping off the bandwagon if that happens. But can this thing get really crazy where that number of losses is very small? I think that's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, for years, the Big Ten, the 20-game season, a 16-4 conference record is outstanding in this league. And could they do that? Could they do 17? Yeah, they absolutely could. And I think, again, we'll find out this in that 2-week stretch there, what they're really made of. Listen, Ben, it is great to talk with you and get some perspective. Talk to you for the first time, by the way, to meet you. Listen, enjoy this weekend's game and all these games. Enjoy this run. This is one, like you said, that's exciting, and it's great to hear your perspective as someone who's recently flown into the area and getting your taste on the flavor of what Nebraska sports is like.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Glad to come back anytime, Larry. Thanks for having me.
All right, thanks so much. Ben Doody joining us here once again as we talk about Nebraska basketball. Still undefeated. They and Arizona, last two left. Ben is the executive editor of the Omaha World-Herald, and glad to have his thoughts here. And hello as well to everyone listening, KLIN there in Lincoln. All right, we've got more to come here on the Sports IQ.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt. That's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. That's 800-507-7293. How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're going to love it. And you're going to love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. That's 800-215-0341.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Some men's college basketball now as we step away from a great talk there with Ben, by the way, about this Nebraska team. And we'll talk with Purdue here in just a moment. Gonzaga getting win number 11 in a row, 86-65 win over Washington State. That was on the road. But some bad news before the game. Star big man Braden Huff will miss 4 to 8 weeks with a left knee injury that he suffered in practice earlier this week. So tough news there for Gonzaga. He's been such a big part of their offense this year, waiting his turn for the first couple of years there on campus in Spokane. Has been a big man on campus, literally. But again, he is out, potentially until the NCAA tournament. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, he's back even sooner. Some games of note this weekend to talk about on Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern. Mark your count. I'll be watching this one. Number 19, Florida, the defending champs. Played a really tough non-conference schedule. Some fans kind of frustrated by all the losses, but look, it's paying off right now. They go for 4 wins in a row as they take on 10th ranked and undefeated Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt won, lost Vanderbilt. I keep forgetting Vanderbilt lost to Texas the other night. So Vandy trying to avoid back-to-back losses after that undefeated start. That game being played in Nashville, the Gators and the Doors. Also in the SEC, number 17, Arkansas taking on 21st ranked Georgia. BYU and Texas Tech meeting again. Not in football this time. BYU number 11, Texas Tech right now ranked 15th. Big matchup there in the Big 12. Women's basketball, meanwhile, it is Tennessee, Alabama on Sunday, number 20 versus number 21 in the SEC. That game in Tuscaloosa. Number 6, LSU taking on number 13, Oklahoma. Also, third-ranked UCLA hosting number 12, Maryland in Big Ten play, and Iowa, 11th-ranked Iowa. We've talked about, Caitlin Clark. What is her legacy? How do the Hawkeyes now survive in year 2 after her in terms of the attention and success on the court? They will host 15th-ranked Michigan State. NBA from Thursday night. Detroit rallying from 16 down to beat the Suns, 108-105. The Thunder, 20 points better than Houston, 111-91. Boston moves to 25-15 on the year. They're playing better than we thought they would without Jason Tatum. And he comes back from that Achilles injury suffered during last year's playoffs. They get the win over Miami, 119-114. Spurs over the Bucks, 119-101. Wemby with 22 points in that one for San Antonio. The Hornets getting 9 threes from LaMelo Ball, rolling past the Lakers in LA, 135-117. Okay, back to college basketball and our conversation with Rob Blackman, the play-by-play man for the Purdue Boilermakers. That is next here on the Sports IQ.
Packages start at $29.99 a month with signed agreement. Restrictions apply. Speak to a representative for complete offer details. See Vivint.com for license details. Terms and conditions apply.
Homeowners, if you're looking for the best in home security and smart home technology at a price you can actually afford, we have great news. Now you can get Vivint's award-winning home security systems starting at about $1 a day. U.S. News & World Report has recognized Vivint as the best professionally installed home security system of 2022. And right now, you can get Vivint's home security technology for about $1 a day. Plus, get free professional installation from a licensed technician. Protect your home and loved ones for as low as $1 a day. Call right now for your free home security consultation.
800-613-8053. 800-613-8053. 800-613-8053. That's 800-613-8053.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
And one of the teams we haven't talked much about because Arizona is undefeated, although again, they just barely escaped the other night in Tucson against ASU. Nebraska's undefeated, Vandy's undefeated, but Purdue is right there. The preseason number 1, just the one loss at home to what has turned out to be a very good Iowa State team. But the Boilermakers right there, they're on the West Coast this weekend. Joining us once again here on the show is our friend Rob Blackman. He is the play-by-play man for the Purdue Boilermakers. Rob, good to see you again. Happy New Year. It's hard to believe a one-loss team could be flying under the radar, and I'm not saying that's the case. But you guys haven't gotten the love since that one loss.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I think it really has more to do with Michigan's success than probably Purdue's lack of success, and certainly lack of success is a poor term when you're 16-1 and 6-0 in the conference. But absolutely, the fact that Michigan has had such a great start to the year, and yes, I know they lost last weekend to Wisconsin, but look, Purdue started the season preseason number 1, as most thought they would, and spent a couple of weeks there, and then lost that game to Iowa State. And then ever since, Purdue has won 8 in a row. And quite frankly, outside of the game Wednesday night against Iowa, none of the games have been close. They've all been blowouts. As a matter of fact, that game against Iowa was the first time, Larry, that Purdue had trailed in the second half since the Iowa State game. So not only had Purdue been winning, they've been making it look easy, which is always tough to do in the Big Ten. But I really do think it's more about Michigan's success and the fact that, look, Nebraska is such a feel-good story. What a great story. Undefeated. I think someone said they've won 21 in a row or something like that if you go back to last year. Yeah. So I really do think it's more about those two schools and the success they're having, other than maybe Purdue not having success, because they certainly have been. It's just what you said. They're just kind of flying under the radar, which I think from a Purdue standpoint probably isn't all bad.
Yeah, not a bad. Well, because nothing changes, and you've got a veteran coach in Matt Painter who, he gets it. Let's do these things now. Well, let's keep getting ready for March, and they're doing that. And maybe you won't face. Maybe Drake is not in your future. They said that those Iowa teams just cause you.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We said that on the broadcast Wednesday night. We're like, well, we couldn't beat Iowa State, but at least we got the old Hawkeyes out of the state of Iowa. I don't know much about Drake. I know last year they were really good when they had Ben McCollum, but and I don't want to play Northern Iowa. I don't want to be messing around with any of those teams. So yeah, absolutely. At least we beat one of those Iowa schools.
Exactly. What is it about this Purdue team right now? Would you say the one loss? And listen, Michigan, they are a juggernaut. Wisconsin got hot at the right time. The win on the road up there at Chrysler, and but again with Purdue, to me, they're still the team we thought they would be in the preseason. Is that fair?
Yeah, I do think that is fair. Purdue, at least to this point, and again, 17 games in, is pretty much exactly what you thought they would be. At least what you hope they would be. You never know when you bring in some transfers. Obviously, Oscar Clough has been the biggest get from that transfer portal because he's really brought not only the rebounding and the fact that he shoots 75% from the floor, but just his overall toughness and demeanor, something Purdue really desperately needed. So he has worked out just about as perfectly as you thought he was going to work out. And then Omer Meyer, the freshman coming in from Tel Aviv, Israel, has pretty much done exactly what you thought he would do. I know there were a few fans that for some reason thought he was going to be first-team All-American and average 25 points right out of the gate. But those that had realistic expectations knew that he's probably exactly what Purdue is getting right now, a guy that's averaging 6-7 points a game. Really is the backup point guard for Braden Smith, which is so ideal because, last year, and this is something, Larry, we've talked about numerous times on the broadcast, last year when Braden Smith had to exit the game, it was a hold-your-breath moment. There's a reason he was playing 40 minutes a game in the second half of the season last year. You just couldn't take him out because if you did, the game just went sideways on you. At least now you have a real luxury in the fact that Omer Meyer can be your backup point guard, and he doesn't have to do it for very long. 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, but at least having a guy you can trust, that's been a really big deal for Purdue. So, I would agree with the way you phrased this question to begin. Purdue's pretty much exactly what you thought they were going to be, which is a good thing. When you're preseason number one, and you're kind of doing exactly what people thought you were going to do, that's a good thing.
Yeah, we saw a different sport, of course, and different dynamic, but we saw in football this fall where the teams in the top five were nowhere near the top 25 at the end of the season. So Purdue has stayed there in the top 5 or 6 throughout the season, no matter who has done whatever else. What has the impact of Clough's arrival meant for an all Big Ten and possible All-American performer like Trey Kaufman-Renn down low?
Yeah, well, so it's interesting because Trey's numbers are not what they were last year. But he's actually been a better player all around for Purdue. Look, last year he had 19 20-point games for Purdue. This year he has 0 20-point games.
Wow.
It's not because he's any less of an offensive player. It's just because he isn't needed as much. Purdue doesn't run as many plays for him now because of what Oscar Clough can bring to the table. So look, Trey's still averaging a double-double. I think he's somewhere in the round 12 and 10. It's not like he's having a poor season by any means statistically. He's actually having a very good season. It's just the numbers are down a little bit as far as the scoring goes. But yeah, I mean, Oscar Clough, I think 11 points a game, 8.5 rebounds a game. But again, as I mentioned earlier, it's just the toughness and the kind of the attitude that he brings to that team down low. And the fact that, look, Daniel Jacobson is healthy, a 7'4" rim protector, which Purdue had no rim protection last year. That has also helped. But without question, if you just look statistically, you would say, boy, Trey Kaufman-Renn is having a down season. That's actually not the case at all. The fact that the players around him have gotten so much better, it's just made his life easier. And he's a better player, but statistically, it wouldn't tell you that.
Yeah, fair enough. We're talking with Rob Blackman, play-by-play man for Purdue, as they once again still undefeated in the Big Ten after the scare the other night, Wednesday night at home against Iowa. Now they're out on the West Coast now for this annual West Coast trip that all the teams take at USC on Saturday, and then they visit Pauley Pavilion and the UCLA Bruins on Tuesday before coming back and facing Illinois. What about the West Coast trip? You guys get a chance to do this. Last year was the first year of the expanded Big Ten. How has this gone in the past, and what changes is Matt Painter making in terms of the process of going out there and playing, basically 3 time zones away?
Well, that is a good question, Larry, because Purdue has altered its travel plans this year because they felt like last year it did catch up to them, not actually out west, but when you came back home. And to explain specifically what I'm talking about, so Purdue last year went out and played Washington first, and then went and played Oregon, and then flew home that night, flew overnight, right? So I don't remember the exact time we got home, but it was, 4 or 5 in the morning. It was a late night. And then 3 days later, played Ohio State at home and lost to a pretty mediocre Ohio State team. No offense to Ohio State, but there's no way they should have come in Mackey Arena and beaten Purdue, which they did, in a tip of the cap to them. But Purdue just looked a little out of sorts that game. Looked like they had some tired legs. Looked like they maybe still had a little bit of the West Coast hangover, jet lag, whatever you want to call it. And so when the season was over, Matt Painter sat down with the staff and they evaluate all those type of things. And they said, well, let's do it differently this year. So this year, Larry, what's going to happen? And you mentioned there's a game Saturday. Purdue will fly out Friday morning, play Saturday against USC. We'll play a late game Tuesday night against UCLA. It's actually a 10 p.m. Eastern tip-off. But then Purdue's not going to fly back overnight. They're not going to make that same mistake again. Purdue will go back to the hotel, get hopefully a good night's rest, and then fly home Wednesday to get ready to play Illinois. So Purdue does feel like there were some hard lessons learned in that West Coast trip last year that hopefully can be remedied this year. The fact of the matter is, the problem is Illinois is a really good team, so it might not matter how well rested you are. But they're at least going to produce, at least going to make that change in the travel itinerary this year and see if it makes a difference.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember that was the same with Illinois last year. They did that same. Oregon, Washington came back, got a win at home against a lower level Penn State team, I think it was, and then just laid an egg against USC. And the rest of the season, Purdue recovered. Illinois did not. They really struggled that way and had some injuries and things. So it's funny that, like you said, things you haven't had to do before. Usually, if you did go out west, it was just it was a one time to go play UCLA or Arizona or whatever, or play a game in Vegas or something. It's, one of those classics or whatever. So interesting that teams are kind of figuring out how to do this. We just saw, we mentioned on Wednesday's show that Duke had never played at Cal ever, and on the Berkeley campus. And yet Wednesday night was their first time, part of now the ACC. I want to talk about the Big Ten right now. Obviously, we've talked about Michigan, Purdue. Illinois is in there, Michigan State, Nebraska, again, who saw that coming? Sizing up again to be an incredibly competitive conference. And I tell you, I always look forward to the tournament. This year especially, I think with the teams right now that you've got ranked and the teams sitting just outside the rankings, we always know there's great coaching in the Big Ten, and that you can't take anybody for granted. But this is sizing up to be a really special season in this league.
Yeah, and I do think if you if you're looking for tangible evidence, Larry, let's just look at Wisconsin winning at Michigan.
Yeah,
Wisconsin's a team sitting outside the top 25. Purdue beat them in Madison to start the new year. And then I look at a team like Iowa, who, quite frankly, had every opportunity in the world to beat Purdue at Mackey Arena Wednesday. So those are two teams sitting just outside of the top 25 that certainly will be good enough to really ruin some teams' Big Ten tournaments, if they get it cooking at the right time. But I do think it is, the teams you mentioned right off the top, Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, Nebraska, Illinois, kind of feels like that is where your winner of the Big Ten is going to come from. I can't imagine any of those teams I just mentioned, I should say any of them, all of those teams I just mentioned just falling off the cliff here in the second, 3 quarters of the season. I don't see that happening. But again, to me, what is more, I guess, interesting as a fan, maybe not so much as a Purdue guy, but as a fan, is knowing that the Wisconsins of the world, the Iowas of the world are certainly good enough to sneak up on you and beat you. And I would put USC and UCLA in that argument too. They've had some injury concerns, especially USC. But yes, they get everybody healthy. And the other team I would throw in there, Larry, as crazy as it sounds, because speaking of health, this team has not been healthy all year, is Minnesota. Boy, they're really well coached. They run some really good stuff on offense. And they could be a tough out too. So yes, we're probably top heavy in the top 5 teams in the league, but those middle 4 or 5, man, they could really mess up some team seasons once we get to the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben Johnson no longer coach of the Gophers, and no disrespect to him. It's a different era now with Nico there coming in. His great success at Colorado State, and in a very, very competitive lead in the Mountain West. And coming in, the big one, I think it was against Wisconsin. They've got Illinois tomorrow. And so, yeah, it's going to be a fun league and a fun time up there in Chicago here coming up in March. Looking down, I don't know if you've had a chance to do this yet, looking to your crystal ball, do you see 9-10 teams possibly out of the Big Ten going to the NCAA, or what number are you putting in at right now?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to that bracketology stuff. I do look at it every time it comes out, regardless if it comes from ESPN or Fox or whomever.
Yeah.
It seems like, everyone has their own version of bracketology, but it does feel like 10 teams are realistic. It certainly does for the Big Ten. Again, top heavy with probably Purdue, Michigan State, maybe Illinois is your teams that you felt could be comfortable enough to get to the second weekend. But I'm with you. I could see 10 teams in there out of the Big Ten. Absolutely.
I want to get one question before I let you go. You've got these two games, USC and UCLA, but you do have Illinois a week from Saturday, a week from tomorrow. They're beginning to figure things out on defense, and beginning to get healthy now. Tomislav Ivicic with 21 points the other night at Northwestern, had 4 threes, and that's still dangerous. What concerns you about this matchup, Purdue and Illinois? They're at Mackey.
Yeah, I tell you what, Purdue catches a major scheduling break there because they only play once, and it is at Mackey Arena. I did have a chance to listen to that game against Northwestern Wednesday night on my drive home, and so I haven't watched it, but just listening, and I was listening to the Northwestern radio crew, it really felt like Illinois always had an answer. No matter what Northwestern did, they got as close as 4, I think, in the second half. Ivicic would hit a 3 or a back-to-back threes or whatever. They would come up with a play needed, when they had to have it. And I've watched Illinois a handful of times this year, actually, on television, and that's probably one thing that has stuck out to me. They seem to always have the answer. Now, against Alabama in the game in Chicago, maybe not so much, but it just they have so many weapons offensively, Larry. I'm just not sure who and Wagler's playing so well as a point guard, a freshman point guard. I'm just not sure where the coaches talk about, well, where can we expose the weakness of the opposing team? I don't know that I've seen it in Illinois, at least on the offensive end, because they just have so many threats offensively. And I would say this: I think Boswell is as good of a 2-guard / captain, tough glue guy as we have in our league. So, to me, and again, we're looking down the road here, Purdue is going to have to be really, really good defensively in that game, because I don't see Illinois having a bad offensive game. They just have too many good players offensively.
Yeah, and they're not coming off a West Coast trip, so they've had that. This game marked up their calendar for a long time. The big win in Champaign last year in March as well. It was good. Rob, always good to talk with you. We know that you've got a lot going on there in LA, so we appreciate your time as always. Happy New Year, my friend, in 2026. Hopefully we'll get together soon, and we'll get a chance to chat again very soon as well.
Yep. Okay, Larry. Thank you.
All right, Rob, thanks so much. Once again, Rob Blackman, play-by-play man for the Purdue Boilermakers, out west right now at USC on Saturday, at UCLA on Tuesday, and then back home again. The game against Purdue right now, number 5, Illinois right now, number 13 next week, and I believe that game is on Fox, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, we've got much more to come. Stay with us here on the Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Life can be full of risks. One thing you shouldn't take a risk with ever is your family's health insurance. If you're self-employed or you now need affordable health insurance, you need to make this free call right now and see how the Health Insurance Helpline can help you get it. We specialize in helping the self-employed and people just like you that need affordable health insurance to get it. We have short and long-term health insurance plans, and some even cover dental, vision, and prescription drugs. Don't take a risk with your family's health insurance. It's not worth it. If you're self-employed or now need affordable health insurance, call right now and learn for free how to get it. Listen, affordable health insurance plans for everyone just like you are a free phone call away. So give us a shout right now.
800-373-8414. 800-373-8414. 800-373-8414. That's 800-373-8414.
Well, it is that time of year. We've come down to the final 8 teams left in the NFL playoffs on the march to the Super Bowl. Producer Tony starts with Saturday's games, and I'm really intrigued. You're a Buffalo Bills fan, but you're objective. The Bills Look, coming through and getting was it the first road playoff win since the early 90s dynasty? Is that correct?
Yeah, first road playoff win for Josh Allen. He never won a playoff game on the road ever. So that was key. Got one monkey off the back anyway.
Yeah. Well, again, for the Bills, there's no Chiefs, no Ravens. So can you come through and make it happen? Now you go up against a Broncos team that hasn't been in this spot before, number 1 overall seed in the AFC, but with a coach in Sean Payton who has done this before, taken a team from nowhere, if you will, and put them in place. And so I'm looking forward to the chess match here in this game with Payton and his offense and what the Bills will provide.
Yeah, I think one of the keys is going to be can Denver run the football? The Buffalo defense, as far as run defense, is not very good. Again, we talked about it earlier in the week. I don't know why the Jags went away from the running game. They were averaging 7 yards a carry. I'd run it, and run it some more. I'm not going to throw it until you make me throw it. Mm-hmm. But coaches sometimes overthink themselves. Even if it involves using Bo Nix, because the running game isn't so great in Denver, I would make that an option just to keep things going and get the ball running and eat up time and keep Josh Allen off the field. Josh is coming into the game where he hasn't had a turnover in the last 3 playoff games he's played in. Wow. So, yeah, I mean, can he have a 4th game like that? The Bills are probably going to need it. I think it's going to come down to the run game. Can Buffalo run on that defense? Because if they do, it makes everything that they do a little more dangerous, on the offensive side. It gives Allen a little more time in the pocket, because they have to respect the run game. It allows the play action pass to work a little better if they can run the football. And Cook will need, I think, as good as Josh Allen is, Superman's cape is getting a little frayed at the edge. James Cook needs to step up. He needs to step up and have a big game if Buffalo is going to advance.
I'm glad you mentioned him because I was just going to say I don't think he gets the love that he deserves. Career high 1,621 yards this year. Had the 12 touchdown runs, down from 16 last year. But what he has done, over 5 yards per carry. We talk a lot about Josh Allen, but James Cook needs to get his flowers as well.
Absolutely. They need to establish Cook early, get him going in the run game, open some holes, make that Denver defense get a little bit on its heels. Then that'll open some things up for Josh Allen. Because again, look, the Bills wide receivers are pedestrian at best. Dalton Kincaid, the tight end's probably the best receiver on the team. Shakir is okay. He's probably more suited to be a 2 or a 3 in a big time offense, but he's number 1 in Buffalo. They don't have Gabe Davis, who had just come back to the team after, a couple of stops around the league. He's out with that bad knee injury from last week. So I don't know who's going to catch the ball from Josh Allen. So we'll just have to see how it plays out. But I still think it's going to come down to who can run the football. If Denver gets away from the run, that helps the Buffalo defense because they're pretty good against the pass. Mm-hmm. And if they commit to the run, I think they can control the clock and keep Allen off the field.
So both number 1 seeds in action. That game is on CBS at 4:30 Saturday, 8:00 on Fox. It's the other number 1 seed, Seattle, that had the week off, hosting the 49ers in a pivotal matchup. Again, these two played in the last game of the season. Seahawks won that game, and with the result of that win, they got to home field for this game. But again, the Niners coming off the big one in Philadelphia, knowing they can go toe-to-toe with Seattle, and this should be a great matchup with 2 divisional rivals going in the divisional round.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Seattle did a great job the last matchup just shutting down the Denver offense. They couldn't run it. They've got to try to establish Christian McCaffrey early, take some of the heat off of Brock Purdy, because the Seattle pass rush can get after it and can create havoc if you allow them to. So they can't get in 3rd and long. They got to stay ahead of the chains. They got to find a way to move the football. They got to get McCaffrey involved. And you've got to put pressure on Sam Darnold. Look, we've seen it before. I know the last 2 regular seasons, Darnold has been very, very good. He hasn't been, he's not an MVP candidate, but he's been really, really good.
Yeah.
And in the games where he gets pressured, he's been really, really bad. But if you can't put pressure on him, he will find a way to pick you apart. But he can be flustered. Now, do you have it to fluster him? That's going to be the 49ers issue.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too. Can he come through? We saw last year with Minnesota, the fantastic regular season, and then just in the playoffs. How can he avoid that this time around?
Absolutely. I mean, he's got to find a way to do it. Look, Larry, in the modern day NFL, in any playoff run that any team makes, at some point, the quarterback is going to have to carry the team.
Yeah.
Can Sam Darnold carry a team in the one time where it's needed the most? He hasn't been tested yet. We haven't seen that yet. If that comes down to the game, can he make the plays to get the Seahawks a win if it's that close and tight of a ball game?
Yeah, good call. Saturday's game is 3:00 Eastern time. Texans and Patriots, the two upstart teams, if you will. The Texans have been building for a while. We kept saying, boy, if they just get a little more mature, add some pieces, they could be right there. They were a very dangerous team down the stretch. Then again, so were the Patriots breaking through, and Mike Vrabel's first year as head coach. Drake May coming through as a possible MVP candidate. This is again two young teams trying to establish themselves in what they feel. Both teams feel they could be a team of the future for the next 5-6 years and be a dominant force in the AFC and the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. And this game, I think, is going to turn on one thing. Which quarterback protects the ball the best? If C.J. Stroud throws a couple of picks early, that's going to be really bad for the Texans. They cannot afford to get behind early against this New England team because they'll eat up the clock, they'll chew it up slowly, and not allow that Texan offense to get back. The Texans defense has to set the tone. We haven't seen Drake May uncomfortable yet this season. He hasn't had to face a team that could make him be uncomfortable, that could sack him 3 or 4 or 5 times. They have to put pressure on Drake May to find out, can he come through, when he's not just sitting in the back, flicking the ball to receivers who are wide open because he's had 5 seconds in the pocket. Mm-hmm. So key is going to be Hunter, Anderson, that rush, and those inside backers. Can they cause some havoc up the middle? If they can, the Texans have a shot. That defense is really, really good.
Absolutely. But they'll be tested against this team here. Drake May, by the way, almost 4,400 yards, 31 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Those are unbelievable numbers until you look at the numbers that Matthew Stafford's been putting up, and that's why he's the MVP candidate. More than 4,700 yards, 46 touchdowns, and again, just the 8 picks. Rams right there along with the Seahawks and the 49ers as the beasts of the NFC West. 3 teams in the same division in the Final Four in the NFC. They're at Chicago, a Bears team right now that you could look at it one of two ways. Either they've just gotten very, very fortunate, the ball bouncing their way so many times in late games during the regular season, and again last week against the Packers, or they're just finding ways. They're a very crafty team that just finds ways to win. You can look at it either way you want.
I think the coaching staff deserves a lot of credit for the Bears' success this year, right? They have put them in position to succeed. Johnson is very high profile. He's also very encouraging. He keeps a very positive attitude in that locker room. They believe they can get anything done. That's a key. If you believe, chances are you can make it happen. Now, conversely, the Rams, what do the Rams need to do here? They have got to put pressure on Caleb Williams, and they got to get him to the ground. Caleb Williams has proven he's not the fastest runner, but he is just slick in the pocket. You think you have him, then poof, he's gone. And he's 15 yards downfield because everybody else is running after receivers. They have to get, when they pressure him, they got to get him to the ground. The Packers were not able to do that, especially in the second half of last week's game. They got back there, couldn't get him to the ground. You've got to get Caleb Williams to the ground to throw that Bears offense down. And at some point, Larry, we all know, we've seen a lot of these teams through the years that have great turnover margin, win a lot of games down the end. At some point, you reach into the magic bag and it comes up 7.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. I think it's all on the Ram defense and who adjusts to the cold. It's going to be like 8 degrees at kickoff.
Yeah.
So bless your heart. Have fun in that. I'll be home watching from the nice, comfortable Southern Georgia living room.
That's right. I'll have my fireplace on with my feet up and with my slippers. Blanket over my legs. Thank you very much. A little hot cocoa. Let's look into our crystal balls right now. Give me your Final Four next. Who's going to win this week and meet up next week for the conference championships?
I think it's going to be the Texans and the Broncos. I think they both get it done. I think the Texans get it done with defense. I think the Broncos get it done with a running game, including Bo Nix on the end. And I think the Rams end up playing the 49ers. I think it's going to be a battle of the West down there. I know I'm going with a lot of road teams here, but I just like the way the 49ers are playing right now. I think they have a little chip on their shoulder against Seattle, and I think they're going to wind up getting it done. And again, I think the Rams have the pass rush to make Caleb Williams very uncomfortable. And if he's uncomfortable, bad things might happen.
Yeah. I think the Bears secondary too may have problems with Stafford. You're looking at my notes here. I've got Houston at Denver. I've got LA at the Niners as well. I just think the Niners are playing really well right now, and two great matchups. Either you're looking at my notes or great minds think alike. One of the two. Little of both. I don't know. All right. Our moment of all up next.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
Time now for a moment of awe, and shades of Wilt Chamberlain, only much smaller. Adrian Stubbs is a high school player in Arizona who just set the Class 6A scoring record by putting in 100 points in a single game. Stubbs stands just 5 feet 10 inches tall. His previous career high was 56 points. He had that done by halftime. 70 points in the first half, 30 more in the third quarter before he sat out the fourth quarter. 5 foot 10 inches tall, breaks the former state record set by recent Arizona Wildcat star Nico Mannion. Did I say he's only 5 feet 10? Yeah, he's no Wilt. Adrian Stubbs, 100 grand is today's moment of awe. Thanks again for everyone stopping by. Ben Doody and Rob Blackman, you as well. Make it a great weekend. Lots of games to watch. Enjoy them. We're back around Monday on the Sports IQ.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.